Yes, motivators here. This is where we're translating our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. Okay, let's get this show on the road. Yes, I know some people like the hard, deep vibration music. Yes, I like it as well. Don't you worry. Huh? It's the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. You better believe it. You better believe it. Oh, yeah. But before I begin, I want to give respect and honor to GalaxyAfui.net, and of course to Giant King, who's taken us from night to day. Long may you continue your sterling work, Giant King. And a thumbs up to the Galaxy Afui management. Long may they continue their outstanding work. Long may they continue their outstanding work. But this show, we're going to really hit the mark. Why? We're going to hit the mark because we're going to speak honestly to each other. You know, there will be no guests today, but what there will be is your voices, your utterances, your thoughts, your vision, your ambition for yourself, for your family, for your community. That's where we're going to hear from. Yeah, we're not going to focus on the negatives, negatives, and negatives. We're going to talk about the positives, the ambition, the vision, and what we will do to be transformative. That's what we're going to focus on today. So let's go straight into the show. And there's a few introductory bits which I want to add to my introduction. And why do I say this? I say this because, hey, we've had a series of wonderful, inspired presenters on this show this past few months, right from January right through to today's show. So this is the first show of the year, in fact. Oh, forgive me, second show of the year, which has been an open mic show. In other words, you, the listeners, you, the viewers, will set the tone, raise subjects of interest to yourself, okay? Subjects that will inspire, we hope, yeah? Subject that will motivate, we hope. Subjects that allows us to come together in unity and purpose. I hope that makes sense to those of you who simply want to record all the negatives and down and down and down and down and down and down. Hey, there are many places for that, but not here and not today. This is the Motivator Show. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. Oh yes, you better believe it. So let me go straight into the most crucial lifestyle messages. And I know that these messages have resonated with increasing numbers of our community in recognition our health is our wealth. And many of you will be aware that I'm also an elected official, so I see the stats, the official figures, health profiles of our community, both men and women, young and old, middle-aged and other. Yeah? And far too many of those figures make for uncomfortable reading. Uncomfortable reading. And therefore, it's incumbent upon me, yeah, a member of our community, okay, a member of the community who's just a family man, a member of the community who's a community activist, admittedly, with a public profile, a member of my community who have real ambition for the community. Therefore, it is incumbent on me to share with you information, vital information, that will help the general health and well-being of our communities. And just to be clear, when I say communities, okay, I say communities plural, when I say, and I'm referring, of course, those of us of African heritage, whether you come here directly from the continent, the motherland, or indeed from the Caribbean or the Americas, okay, or indeed you are born here, your heritage, to whom I specifically refer to. There are other channels for other communities all the time, but there are too few channels for our communities that focus on our issues all the time. So this is a gap in the information dispersal that occurs. I pause there because I want you to take that in. There is not enough portals for our young and our old, the middle-aged and others, to go to and extract useful information that reflects our world view. And what I'm about to go into now, lifestyle messages, reflects our world view, because these are issues close to all of our hearts. And yes, the messages are applicable to all communities, regardless if you're of African heritage. But most certainly, these messages are focused specifically, I want to make it clear, are focused specifically on those of us of African heritage who need to communicate these messages to all of our communities, not just some of our communities. Regardless of your religious affiliation, regardless of your socio-economic position, these messages apply to you. These are lifestyle messages, crucial lifestyle messages. In some cases, it determines life and death. But by simple, I say straightforward, common sense action, and I know for some it's going to be challenging what I'm about to say, but common sense actions could lead to longer, fruitful, wholesome life. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar and salt that you consume every day. Yes, it's as simple as that. Sugar and salt. The challenge for us as a community is that our cuisine, our diet, is overly laden with sugar and salt. And many of you will know someone with diabetes or high blood pressure or hypertension, which have a direct causal reasons for the overconsumption of sugar and salt. And many of you know it has a direct causal action, but feel unable to change the habit of a lifetime. And I get it. I have a sweet tooth. And I've told you many times, as a child, I was given these large bags of sweets. And I enjoyed myself, but I still feel it now. You can hear my passion for the sugar. Yeah. Because, of course, sugar and its chemical constituents is very similar to the chemicals in our brain. Yeah. What our bodies secrete. Mm-hmm. We use sugar as a source of energy so we can move. Yeah. But the overconsumption of sugar, where the pancreas is not able to cope with the quantum sugar that we consume, and it becomes numb to sugar, no longer processing sugar as it should. And I'm reminded of a speech given by the Vice Chancellor of University of West Indies, Professor Hilary Beckles. And he noted in his family circles, immediate families, diabetes was prevalent. And he noted across the Caribbean an epidemic of diabetes. Here in Britain, amongst those who have of African heritage, indeed Southeast Asian heritage or Indian heritage, an overconsumption of sugar is leading to above normal levels of diabetes being prevalent in our communities, which has a direct causal impact. That is, of course, the overconsumption of sugar. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar that you are consuming every day. And it is a challenge. I get it, I get it, I get it. I no longer buy sugar from the grocery store. Okay? And it has taken years to no longer buy sugar. Mhm. In my case, it took 10 years of gradual reduction. Yeah, it took 10 years, I know this. It took 10 years, yeah, gradual reduction. That wonderful sugary taste I used, the time I used wonderful sugary taste, I had to reprogram my mind. What is wonderful sugary taste? Overconsumption is harmful. And reclaim my decision that I didn't wish to consciously harm myself. I had no reason to do so. And for you, you had to go through your own self-actualization in order to understand the actions that we do to ourselves that potentially may harm ourselves over the medium and long term. But I know that each of you will know someone with either diabetes or hypertension. That's how prevalent it is in our communities. The NHS spends more than 25 billion, 30 billion pounds, I understand, every year treating people with diabetes. For the pharmaceutical sector, it's a big business. Yes, it's big business. Yeah, I find it most annoying. It's big business. Yeah, we need to consider preventative measures and not simply those measures that simply seeks to manage the condition. So I applaud the inspired diabetic. You remember Linton when he was here? And he talked about his journey with diabetes and recommendations to improve your diet. I simply ask you to consider the amount of sugar you are consuming and the long-term impact of the overconsumption of sugar. And particularly if you are a gardener or parent, yeah, looking after children, don't get them in the habit of consuming sugar in vast quantities. Give them vegetables, carrots and other types of alternative treats. But you don't need to give them the processed sugar, those so-called sweets. Please, please, I beg you. Yes, I am begging you, because I know it's habit and it's difficult to change habits. Yeah, you believe you're stimulating a positive response from the child, and yes, you are. But actually, the child is wholly dependent upon your wisdom as a guardian, as a parent, as an adult, yeah, as an elder, to guide them appropriately. Yeah. That's what we do. That's what we do. That's our purpose for being here, to guide the next generation. Yeah? We stand on the shoulders of giants, so therefore we should act appropriately. So I ask you to consider the amount of sugar. I equally ask you to consider the amount of salt. Salt, again, another one of these pernicious ingredients we add to our diet on the basis it enhances the food. Okay? And I get it to some extent, but what we don't realize is the salt masks the real flavor of the food. It is simply habit we've got into. And I say to so many of you who understand the direct impact of salt on our bodies, I ask and I urge you to think carefully about our actions. And I'm still a part of it, okay? But although I've significantly reduced the amount of salt I constantly add to my diet. So I urge you to consider this very carefully. Okay? I no longer buy salt also from the local grocery store for that reason. And I hope you can do the same over time. Okay? I never recommend this cold turkey approach, we just stop overnight. No. Gradual reduction, so you adjust your mental response whenever you encounter salt. Salt is a useful ingredient but can be harmful very often to us. So I strongly urge you to think carefully about the overconsumption of salt. It is a challenge, and I get it, but just think of the effects. The hardening of the heart rate as a result of the salt content in your blood, okay? Forcing your heart to have to pump even harder, more vigorously. In order to achieve that outcome, it raises your internal blood pressure. And of course, if there's any fault in your arteries or your veins, then it pops. And they call it aneurysm. Yep, that's what it's referred to. It's a very dangerous condition to have. And far too many people, members of our community, mothers and fathers, boys and girls, youngsters and elders, have that condition. And it's a condition that is a lifestyle condition. In other words, it is avoidable. I urge you to think carefully about the overconsumption of salt. Again, sugar and salt. Very basic ingredients, I realize, but the overconsumption is the problem in our community, and that's what makes it particularly vulnerable. I quickly want to ask you to consider two other ingredients which are typical in our cuisine, and that's, of course, carbohydrates and fat. Carbohydrates typically found, and many of you recognize this, from wheat-based products and some root vegetables, such as the yam. It is the overconsumption which is the issue. You recall we had a nutritional pharmacist here in the studio a few months ago, and what he cited is that ideally, each sitting, in other words, each time we sit down to eat, we should be consuming no more than a fistful of food per sitting. I get it, I know. I get it. A fistful is what is recommended. These large plates of food that we've gotten the habit of consuming, I realize it's simply a habit. The overconsumption of calories is a problem in our community. Yeah. And you see far too many members of the community who are indeed overweight, technical term, obese. And indeed, 80% of those who are obese are morbidly obese. In other words, they are dangerously overweight. So you see them with their bloated shoulders, their bloated abdomens, their bloated thighs, and bloated buttocks, or bottoms, you like, in polite company. But it's a very serious matter. Extremely serious. Extremely serious. Far too many members of our communities are overweight. The overconsumption of calories, the overconsumption of carbohydrate, which we store in our bodies for a rainy day. It is difficult. Wheat-based products in excess is harmful, be in no doubt. The overconsumption of carbohydrates is harmful, be in no doubt. You don't need to be a medical clinician to argue that point. We recognize this, but we formed habits. It is difficult to change the habit of a lifetime. But I recommend far more salads. And I know I can hear the screams now. I can hear the screams, I know. I'll get to that later on in a moment. Fat, I want to focus on now. Fat, of course, again, if you're a regular meat eater or you buy meat from the butchers, what you'll see, those white streaks in the meat, that's fat. If you're consuming a dairy product, that's another form of cow's fat. The cheese is hardened fat. Margarine is not so hardened fat. Yes, milk is primarily fat. Yeah, it's fat. That's all it is. And our bodies store the fat on the premise that there will be a rainy day when there will not be available nutrition to consume. So it is difficult, and I get it. I understand the challenges this presents for you. Okay, if you can eat meat, grill it, or at least get as much of the fat out of the meat as possible. It is difficult. I recognize that, but we together can make these changes. I know if you're by yourself, speak to someone who you trust about these matters, and together reduce the quantum of sugar and salt, yeah, the carbohydrates and the fat, the clear fat that's in our foods, in the meat, in the dairy products, and so on. Okay, many of these oils you're buying, it's a fat, harmful, saturated fats. We need to avoid them as far as possible. Frying our food is particularly harmful to us. It is particularly harmful. I urge you to hear these words. I gain no financial benefit. I gain no financial benefit from sharing the information for you. But what I gain is the satisfaction of knowing that at least one life is saved in response to these words. I gain that satisfaction. I've gained many satisfaction when I've spoken to hundreds of people over this time, and I'm satisfied the messages are getting through to you. They are getting through to you. I'm satisfied. We are making progress. And together, we wrap each other around, let's hug each other, and together we can make those changes. We are together the change makers. It's essential. The last ingredient I should mention is, of course, starch. Starch principally derived from, there we go, from rice. So, if you eat jollof rice, I can hear the West Africans now, oh Lord, no, keep quiet, yes, the overconsumption of jollof rice is harmful to you in the long term, particularly if you are outside of West Africa, you're here in Europe, the Caribbean, or the Americas, where that is accompanied with all these other foods, rich foods, which are available here. That combined creates a toxic environment for our bodies. What do I mean by that? That's starch we can restore as a source of energy. Mhm. But the overconsumption of these energy sources, as I've mentioned earlier on, is what's harmful to our bodies. Yeah? That causes our bodies to bloat, that causes our immune system to wilt, it causes our general physique to become, to take on a form that is not healthy. And you can see it if you observe our people walking on the high street. I urge you to hear these words. The overconsumption of starch, jollof rice, or indeed from the Caribbean, the rice and the peas, the overconsumption, that is the problem. Overconsumption. It's not the ingredient itself, it's the overconsumption. Moderate. I urge you, if in doubt, speak to your GP. I'm not an expert. Speak to your GP. Speak to your nutritionist. Speak to whoever has access to your medical records. They are best placed to provide you with personalized health information. Mine is but general information, common sense information. They will provide you with very specific information that is very specific to yourself. It's the sort of advice I give to everyone. Seek out professional advice. But the general information I am providing is generally true and is consistent for us all. We need to cut down on the overconsumption. Overconsumption is bad. Let me say it straightforwardly. Overconsumption is bad. And lastly, I ask you all not only to consider your physical well-being, but also your mental and spiritual well-being. It is useless if you've not considered your other aspects yourself. Okay, I'll pause there. I want you to think in, because I know for some it now becomes a little challenging. If you're uncertain in regards to your mental health, or there's a loved one you're concerned about your loved ones, or your friends, or whoever you respect, I urge you to seek out professional advice. I urge you to seek out professional advice. I urge you to seek out professional advice. Your spiritual health, of course, your spiritual advisors are critical people in this. So you can uplift yourself through your spiritual belief systems. I believe that to be a crucial part of who we are, particularly as African people. We are most certainly a spiritual people. So I urge you to consider those two pieces of advice. Seek out professional advice. And to wrap up all what I've said so far, and one of the reasons why every Saturday morning I arrive here feeling vigorous, alive, forthright, determined, because prior to these shows, I complete my physical regime. That is exercise. It's important to exercise. We must exercise. Okay? You can cut down and moderate all the other ingredients I've mentioned earlier on. If you're not exercising, genuine exercise where you sweat and you pour, you push and pull your muscles, yeah? If you're not doing this, your body will take on the view that you no longer need your muscles. And if you don't need your muscles, you become gradually weaker. You become gradually weaker, you get older, you are foreshortening your lives. There you are. Exercise is important. Drinking the appropriate amount of water is important. Between 2 to 3 litres on average is what's required for most people. Okay? Seek out and speak to your nutritionist, your pharmacist. Speak to your GP. He or she will provide you with the more personalised information. Okay? Appropriate amount of water, exercise, rounds up all what I've described to you this morning, and should enable you to live a longer, healthier, happier life. I'll pause there. And I hope these messages find you well. I know some of the messages I have to repeat each strong. Why? Because, like all matters to do with communicating messages, okay? You hear, but you don't really hear, you know? We only know you've heard what's been said when you act upon what has been described, because it's solely in your self-interest. I'm going to say it again, because this is solely in your self-interest. Yeah, it's true. It is absolutely true. Absolutely true. It is interesting, having spoken to thousands of people over this past year, how many believe that I might have some financial interest with the health sector. I have none whatsoever. Oh, please, none whatsoever. How can I gain monetary gain from advising that you should exercise? At least do some exercise every day, or drink the appropriate amount of water, or moderate your sugar intake so you can reduce the risk of diabetes. I know some of our people are so strange at times. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to activate our phone lines, because today's show, as I said earlier on, is going to be one of those interesting shows. It will be an opportunity, a genuine opportunity, for us to have real debates. Okay, and when the system comes up in a second, there we go. Real debates, and will allow us to really discuss those matters that inspires people. That's what we want to do today. Okay, but before getting on to that, what I do want to focus on for a moment is give a big thumbs up to past contributors. Okay, I haven't mentioned them yet, but I want to mention a group of people who are passionate about preparing the next generation. Those of you know that this is one of my passions, to prepare the next generation. Okay, so I want to give a big thumbs up, and let me put up on the screen. It's worked. There we go. To the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, or NABS, they like to call themselves. Okay, of course, as the name infers, this is our community coming together, recognizing not only should we ensure all of our children in the community have good education, academic education, but that academic education should also extend to cultural education and appreciation of our culture and traditions. Okay, the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools is that organization. It's a network of supplementary schools up and down the country in the center of our communities. Okay, and if you manage a supplementary school, okay, whatever description you give to it, please, if you're not on the the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools website, please, why don't you contact them and get your organization on the national network website. So to go to their website, it is just use www.nabss.org.uk. www.nabss.org.uk. In other words, nabs.org.uk. Okay. If you wish to email them, it's info@nabs, nabss.org.uk, or you can contact the great Brother Near on telephone number 07958 348 558, and Brother Near will be happy to take your calls. He'll be aware and be able to point you in the direction where there is a supplementary school or facility near you, or if there's not one, well, we may have to think about how we create one near yourself. But I see NABS as being a crucial organization, bringing people together with like minds who care about preparing the next generation. So well done to the National Association of Black Supplementary School Network. Long may your work continue for now and into the far future. Long may your work continue. Well done, well done. Secondly, I also want to give a big thumbs up to those of you who have responded to these health messages, and I'm heartened by some of the messages I've received. In fact, not heartened by some, by all the messages that I have received. And these are indeed people who have heard the messages. It's like all of us, took a little while to understand the implications of the overconsumption of sugar, salt, carbohydrates, and fat, and the starch. Okay, but after time, what then tends to happen, because members of the community who are viewing or listening to us now know of someone with one of those conditions, and let me just cite the typical conditions which are above average, way above average in our communities. The diabetes, most certainly. High blood pressure is another. Okay. Heart conditions, again, interrelated, is another. Okay. Another one, and of course, far too many of our community have these respiratory conditions. Okay. Whether it be asthma or emphysema. Okay. Very big in the community, and clearly there's some correlation between us being primarily found in the city areas, which were hitherto the areas where you found the highest intensity of airborne pollution. So there's a causal link between the two. Yep, a causal link. It is true. It is true. Pollution is dangerous. And that's why I want to applaud, if I may take this opportunity, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, for his determination to extend ULEZ, in other words, outer low emission zone, across the whole of the city, of whole of London, the capital, I should say, the capital of London. I hope he remains forthright in pursuing what is clearly a known danger, where thousands of Londoners meet their death as a direct result of breathing in poisoned air, polluted air. So I hope the adoption of an electric car here in London. So we have clean air, finally, here in London. So, thank you, Sadiq Khan. Yeah, vote for Sadiq Khan. Vote for a healthy future. There you are, there you are. Just important that I discuss our contribution to Britain's social life. The National Association of Supplementary Schools is playing its role. It's our antidote, as it were, to those often poor academic institutions, schools and colleges. Okay, it's our antidote because we are able to remedy these situations ourselves. As the old saying goes, reparations begins with self. Okay, reparations begin with self. But as I said, today's show, today's podcast, if you like, will enable you to set the tone. Okay, so I'm going to open the phone lines. I don't normally open it this time, but I'm going to open the phone lines. Okay, and let's get a dialogue flowing here. Let me get the correct capture up on my screen, and there we go. I think this is it. I show this one. It should appear at the bottom of my screen. There you are. So, if you want to interact with me, you can interact with the Motivator Show, where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. And please call the studio on 0203 289 6504. I repeat, 0203 289 6504. The phone lines are now officially open. There you are, officially open. So whilst you're pondering on that, I should also say that this show is also going out via YouTube and Facebook under The Motivator Show. And I say demotivator because I'm thinking very slowly, but those of us from the Caribbean, of course, from many parts of Africa, when we say D, we mean the. Of course, the Motivator Show, if you like. There you go. DE space Motivator space show. I say note to spaces because there are some similar names, descriptors in both YouTube and Facebook, but this show is very clear. It's DE space Motivator space show. The Motivator Show. Okay? And you not only can you hear, but you can see my personage. There you are. I'm now shaking my head. There you are. You wouldn't know I'm doing that unless you could see my person. Huh? All right. Okay. So so if you're on purely audio, if you want to see what's going on, there you are. Okay. So the Motivator Show. Thank you so much. And of course, we go out live via audio purely on Mixcloud, but most importantly, we go out via digital radio via GalaxyAfiwi.net. And I realized I don't have a caption for GalaxyAfiwi.net. I will have a caption for GalaxyAfiwi.net by next week. Okay, so a beautiful caption will come up. You see GalaxyAfiwi.net, an inspired the radio station, started 40 years ago by inspired Africans, Nana Pakamba Bai. Yeah, he recognized that the typical terrestrial stations of both radio and TV were not representing our worldview. In fact, misrepresented our place in society, our contribution to British society. Okay, and therefore it was incumbent upon us to set up our own communications and media networks. And GalaxyAfiwi.net, the de-brainwashing station, is an example of our determination to control our own airways. I like that. Be assured, I like that, absolutely. We can do for ourselves because reparations begins with self. And why this show is named The Motivator Show, where we translate our words into action, and where success is always, always ours for the taking. Praise Jah, Rastafari, bless Ashur. Okay, so the phone lines are now open. Please, I'd love to interact with you. I know you're listening, but I want to directly interact. What are the issues of the day that you wish to talk to me about? Issues I hope that will be empowering issues, that will motivate people into action, to come together with common aim and common purpose. The number to call is 0203 289 6504. If you're overseas, you simply take off the first zero and it becomes plus 44 203 289 6504. If you're overseas, take off the first zero, it's plus 44. So, what you're thinking about that, let me bring a few issues of interest to myself to your attention. I'm just going to, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put on the screen, if I can get this to work first time, on the screen a few stories I picked out, but I think you might find of interest. But I invite you to put forward your stories, your news items you believe you want to share with the community. So the number to call, if you wish to call, you're in the UK, it's 0203 289 6504. And the system is working, I believe, so that's fine. So let me just put this on screen and just make an adjustment to this here. I'm going to put this on screen and I'm going to put it on screen now. There we go. And it's part of the opening caption. For those of you who are on YouTube and Facebook, you will see this opening caption. Let me just alter this. I'm going to alter it this way. And yeah, and push up there. There you go. Now then, so I'm going to just pause here. I've just got to pause on this first story I found. And first of all, the first story I found, which wasn't a positive story, despite all that I've just said, but a story nevertheless which has profound implications, particularly for policymakers, and some would argue I'm also a policymaker, is of course the survey of young Black or African Britons that only 1 in 10 are proud to be British. Gosh, what an appallingly low figure. Only 1 in 10 Black or African Britons are proud to call themselves British. That is an appalling figure. If that were at the performance of an organization, that organization will be placed immediately into special measures. What an appalling figure. For all policymakers, including myself, that is a red flag, and that needs to change. I see I've got a caller on the line. Caller, can I have your name, please? Oh, the motivator, Orban, the motivator. How are you? How are you? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Before you go, Orban, you might just want to tell the listeners, the viewers, what happened, what you do at the at Elim House. And Elim House, I should just say for the audience, is a result of a community campaign going back nearly 40 years now, Orban. yeah, of nearly 40 years. A campaign. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes. Mhm. Yes, it is. Yes, yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ubin. It's fine. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I will pop in. Don't you worry, Ubin. I will pop in. Okay. An important community initiative. Well done. Well done. Thank you. So I'm going to give away a few more of your secrets, Orbin. That Orbin Graham is a former councillor here in Southwark in London. Okay, of what, 33 years? Am I right? And of course a former mayor of Southwark as well. Okay, I know. Yes. Thank you very much, Orbin, for the call. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. Take care. Pleasure. Pleasure. Wonderful, wonderful. There you are. First caller of the day, an inspired caller, someone who understands what it means to be determined, dogged, consistent. What 40 years existence as Elam House has been there, and it has served the community well. Okay, and therefore such an organisation becomes a community asset, one we should all protect and ensure is available to the next generation. I want to applaud Orbin and the team at Elam House. Long may that initiative, that manifestation of our coming together with common aim and common purpose, long may you continue its outstanding works. Thank you so much, thank you so much. So that was Orbin. There you go, Orbin. Take care, take care, take care. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. So that was Auburn. So my first story I pointed out is, of course, the story where Slough called himself British. I find that to be a rather disturbing fact. This is a survey of them, of quite a number, a few thousand of them. I find that to be a very disturbing fact. Another story I've got here, one that I hope will move you all somewhat. An 18-year-old, Daniel, his name is Daniel, has won the Young STEM Personality of the Year award. Now, STEM, of course, those of you who are not aware of what that typical word That means science, technology, engineering, and medicines. Okay? In other words, these are the subjects which are the foundation for the 21st, 22nd century. This is the foundation of the modern society that we live in. Okay? STEM subjects are critical to the general economic aspirations of our community. Encourage your children to take up science and technology, engineering, or medicines. Okay? Um, it is critical for us to inspire our young people to get into STEM subjects. Okay, the technologies will rule society. I say that, or we will rule technology. The better way around, isn't it? You know, concerned about AI, yeah. Okay, but our children, our youngsters, okay, the young ones, we must guide them toward those subjects. Okay, the humanities have their place. Don't misunderstand. The humanities subjects have their place, but the STEM subjects are the subject that will be the guiding force, the real force behind the 21st to the 22nd century. Okay? So, what do you think? He's 18 years old, and he won the Young STEM Personality of the Year award. Okay, let's give a real applause to him. I wonder how many of you were aware of this. How many of you were aware of this? You know, I know often in some quarters of my community, we simply refer, and when referring to our young people, our children, in the negative. But actually, for every child involved in some negative activities, such as gang crime or whatever, okay, there are 98 or upward-standing young men and young women who just want to realize their ambitions, their dreams for the future. That's all they want to do. Pay their taxes and be good citizens of the country. Hopefully, he says, they'll get married, have good husbands, good wives. You know, hopefully. Yeah. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. And I've got another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Can I have your name, please? Greetings to you. Here I'm the moderator. Yes. Mhm. That's not controversial. I suspect you there are great but truth what you're about to say. Please proceed. Mm-hmm. Well done. Well done. I love school governors. I was a school governor for 27 years myself. Well done. Well done. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm really sorry. I think I've lost Desmond. Corey, just hold on just a second. I might need some help from the Galaxy management, or if Ian King is listening. I believe my phone system is not creating a conference, but anyway, um, I'm sorry about that, Desmond. If you can call back in 5 minutes, I've got a call on the line now with number ending 9176. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller. Oh, good morning there. Good morning there. How are you? How are you? Mhm. Mhm. Ah, right. Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. I will adjust it now. Ah, yeah, Lyndon. Yes. Mhm. Yes. Oh. Good. 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 So, so, do you mind if I ask you this question? Do you have diabetes yourself, or do members of your family? Oh wow. Okay, I understand. I understand. I understand. And it is a real challenge, isn't it? It is a real challenge in so many ways. Mm. Mm. Yes. Yes. Mhm. Mhm. I completely understand, and I'm sorry to hear that. And we've known each other for a good few years, so I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, and have you, if I may ask you, sort of changed your diet, and are you exercising, or is the advice I'm giving sound? It's question I'm asking. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. Good. Oh. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. 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 Okay, and thank you for that. That's very useful insight. Very useful insight, and I commend your bravery, if I may say. I know you're a brave person anyway, but I commend your bravery for at least sharing that with us, because these your account is what others need to hear. But as you know, I've been sharing the lifestyle messages for some time now, in recognition that I encounter what you're describing too often, too often, and we Mhm. Mhm. Yes, yes, that's right. Yes, in excess. Yes. Yeah. You've now inspired me. I'm going to add an extra 5 minutes on lifestyle, and I'm going to seek professional advice, and I'm going to lay out what a good balanced diet looks like. Yeah, yeah, I will do that. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Stay well, and I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch. Take care. Thank you. Whoa. Was that's another one of our inspired listeners, huh? Inspired listeners. She was brave enough to share her story, and that it's not actually a story; it's an experience. Okay, and is it an experience I've come across too often in the community? And I kind of take some responsibility. I now feel as if I should have been, as it were, discussing these matters in public at a much earlier stage. You never know. We could have saved even more people. But I know, I'm taking it all on. I realize. But together, working as a family, supporting each other, you know, we can help and support listeners such as Melanie through the experience. We've got to work together, support each other. Okay, because these habits that we form are a result of our experience, in our case, in the Caribbean. Okay, where our lifespan was not expected to be very long, and where it was absolutely critical for us to have a high energy, high intensity diet. Lots of sugar, lots of salt, lots of fat, because we were working 18 hours a day. Yeah, working where most people would have died, we survived and thrived. Yeah, as African peoples. That's why the transatlantic chattel slave trade is a trade that was deemed to be a crime against humanity, and deemed through Judge Julian Robinson that Britain owes us, or our nations, at least 24 trillion pounds, or dollars, as you say, trillion dollars. And I'll get on to that later on. Okay, I'll get on to that later on. So I want to thank Melanie for that call. Well done, Melanie. Well done. I've got another call on the line. Am I right, caller? 9176. Caller with number ending 9176? No, I can't know that caller. Caller with number ending 9176? Okay, I can't hear the caller if you're speaking. If you are speaking, you may have this phone on mute, or if you could log off and try again, that might get out of the problem. That might get out of the problem. Let's go to the boss, that caller is talking now. Now we move on to the next story that's noted here. And this is a story on the screen now. I'm just going to let the caption play itself out. Now, there we go. It is found that 89% of black candidates question, worry that dressing like themselves or wearing their hair naturally will result in discrimination at work. Almost a third of people from black and so-called minority ethnic backgrounds feel pressure to change their hair for an interview. Can you imagine? I'm going to say it again, that particular caption. Sorry, let me just adjust this phone system of mine. I find it quite disturbing. Sorry, do I have a caller on the line? Hold on. Making sure. All right, don't worry. Again, I'm just going to read that article again, the headlines of this article. It is this. It is found that 59% of black candidates questioned worry that dressing like themselves or wearing their hair naturally will result in discrimination at work. Almost a third of people from black and so-called minority ethnic backgrounds feel pressure to change their hair for an interview. Jeez. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Can you imagine having to change your hair, yeah, change yourself in order not to be prejudiced against, for the person who's interviewing you to be biased? Can you imagine? I know this particularly affects women, you know, particularly affects our women, and why these hair products are so popular, because they either consciously or subconsciously understand that they're in a racialized environment. They bias against our natural African hair. I find that, again, in 21st century Britain, most disturbing. Truly disturbing. Truly disturbing. Now, if you want to also interact with us in the studio, you can, of course, interact with us via the chat facility. If you're viewing us via YouTube or Facebook, you can chat with us via that method and interact here with the studio. And I see quite a few of you there on the chat. And I wonder if those of you on the chat, you've got any particularly disturbing. I know some of you said the sound is a little distorted for whatever reason at the moment, and I'm now seeking to resolve it as we speak. I thought I'd resolved that already, but I do apologise if the sound is a little distorted, but we'll resolve it now. Okay. Hopefully that's better. Hopefully that is better. Okay, I've just made an adjustment, which should make all the difference. It should make all the difference. So just getting this story, the idea that particularly women, I imagine this is affecting, is this the reason why many women, African women, who have natural curly hair, put on wigs, which really takes on the hairstyle of someone from India or Pakistan or wherever? Is that the reason behind it? I'd be interested to hear from some women, or I'd be interested to hear if you've been to an interview and you deliberately made those changes, okay? Because the persons you're likely to be interviewed by is not a member of our community, from other communities. Do you do this? Do you do this in order that you might be accepted by the interviewer? That's an interesting one, isn't it? And I invite women. I suspect this is primarily women. Um, do you wear those wigs, those pieces, in order that you will be accepted by general society? Hmm. That's a really interesting one. I'd be interested to hear from women. And if you're going to call, please call this number 0203 289 6504. I repeat, 0203 289 6504. Okay. Okay. I see I've got a call on the line. Let's hope it works this time. Call with number ending, get it right, 9341. Good morning. Oh, good morning to you. Good morning. Can I have your name, please, sir? Good morning to you, Thomas. How would you like to contribute this morning? Yes. Mm. Thomas, again, the right question to ask. We want all our children to be good people and not get involved in criminality. I agree with you. But I think often we take these things way out of proportion. Okay. I'm going to check in a few moments. I wonder, in terms of the size of our community in that particular borough, compared to, you mentioned the Jewish communities, okay, in that area. I wonder what relative size of the communities are, first of all. Okay. I would hazard a guess that the Jewish community is no more than what a percent or 2% of the total population, where we're closer to 10, 15%. I'll check those figures in a moment. Okay. Then, secondly, if you then look at the numbers of young people, children, if you like, in that borough who attend schools, okay, what percentage of those children are from our community? For example, in my borough here in London, in Southwark, it's 80+% of the children are from our community. Therefore, when you hear of a Southwark school doing extremely well, it primarily will be black children, African children, who are excelling. And I suspect it is the case in Croydon as well, although Croydon has had some particular issues with organised gangs. Okay, and I believe, in my experience as school governor, when we had to take on some of these issues, I always say that young men, boys, if you like, okay, who have father figures who are involved in their lives and are attentive, okay, and show real interest in their lives, such young men, boys, if you like, okay, tend not to find the comfort of other peer groups as their reference point for their behavior. Okay. So I'm going to put the question back to you, Thomas. Okay. Are you involved in engaging boys or young men in your borough? No. Okay. No, not involved. I understand. I understand. Okay. What I've noticed over the years is that you get black children in black children. Yes. So where to me it's as if it's a problem within our race, no? Mm-hmm. Something, it's like it's deep, but it's very deep. Can I just ask you just to pause there for a second? One of the reasons why I do these shows and why this show started off with Galaxy Radio or galaxyafui.net, you can find them on the internet, is because they are a de-brainwashing station. What they seek to do is to counter the propaganda propagated by local newspapers and commentators, okay, who are supported by large media outlets. Mm-hmm. And what they do, they flood the airwaves with propaganda. And this is a good example of propaganda. Okay. I'm going to assert it again. I said it earlier, and I know it wasn't heard. 98% of our children between the ages of 0 up to 30, well, I'm going to guess you're roughly my age, okay? 0 up to 30 are good, upstanding boys and girls, young men and young women, whose sole desire is to realize their academic intellectual potential. Their sole desire is to realize their economic potential. Their sole desire is to be good husbands and wives. Their sole desire is simply to be good people and contributors to British society. But the small number involved in the type of activity you reference, okay, is given center stage. Center stage. If it were happening in Scotland, it wouldn't be black boys, it'd be white boys, if you like. Because they had no choice, because that's where primarily, particularly in Glasgow, they'd be found. But here, of course, and whilst there is a problem with a slightly heightened levels of gangland activities in Croydon, there's no doubt about that, and Anthony King is an excellent community leader there. If you don't know him, if not able to contact him, I'll commend his work to you. You should look him up, okay, and support his effort to support those young boys, those young men who've fallen into the wrong company. But I want to assert again, in my experience as school governor and working with fathers in particular, when a boy, has an attentive father, when a boy has an attentive male figure to whom they can gain support, both moral and spiritual and intellectual support from, and that adult guides that child is less likely to find themselves in the wrong company. So I don't blame the child. I don't blame the child. It's us, the adults, who are the problem here. We have to assert ourselves and control over our own community, our own children. Praise Joe. Go on, Thomas. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, but yeah, what I was saying is like I agree with you on the idea of you say that the achievements of the children, of
Mhm.
black children, look highlighted in the media.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but the killings of blacks, it doesn't make it from that. Although what you say is true about the achievements of our community,
Mm-hmm.
not highlighted in the media. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to say is like this black on black thing is it's always there. It never disappears. You know, it's never. It's always. So what I'm trying to say, you got to highlight it in the past.
You know, Thomas, you are right, and you should be concerned. And I'm so pleased, and I'm grateful for the fact that you picked up the phone and you've expressed yourself here. And I think it's so critical. But remember, this is the Motivator Show, where we translate words into action. Yeah. And what can and should be our next action following this dialogue with you? Okay. Are you a member of a church or a mosque or temple where other adults discuss these matters?
I'm just a citizen, you know.
Sorry.
I'm just a citizen
Okay. Okay.
of many black people, you know.
Okay.
Part of society, you know.
You are. You are. You are. I asked the question whether or not you are a member of an organization or member of a faith
No,
community. No?
no, no.
Okay. Can I positively encourage you to join? Why? Because another fault line in our community, amongst the adult part of our community, is hyper individualism. And by that I mean where individuals just do things for themselves, engage and benefit themselves without regards to others. But you sound to me as like someone with great empathy. Yeah? The fact that you've highlighted the issue, you sound to me as if you've got heart. Yeah, and you want to see change. But obviously, you cannot change it by yourself. You have to join with other like minded adults in your area. And I commend again to you Anthony King. You look him up, you make contact with him. I know he would welcome your support. Okay? Because his work in your area has been outstanding. Let me assure you, absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I've taken note of your number. I will follow up and I'll get information to you. And I hope this is a beginning of a great outcome. I hope this is a beginning. Because we see the problem. It is not enough for us to see and walk on by. And I'm not suggesting you are walking on by. What is absolutely critical for us is to see and to react to what we've seen. Because reparations, in other words, repair, begins with self. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Can I ask you? So you cited one issue. Any other issues that have any response to this survey of black candidates or African candidates for jobs, particularly women who have to change themselves, particularly putting on hair wigs and so on, in order to hide themselves? Do
Yeah,
you
I'm
think?
conscious of that. I'm aware of that. But
Wow. Okay.
I don't know, man.
What's your reaction to that? What's your reaction to that knowledge?
Well, I think it's bad, you know. I think
Hmm.
we shouldn't discriminate against children, black girls for wearing their natural hair. I don't think
Hmm.
it's good at all, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. I completely agree. I completely agree. I would ask that people like yourself who see the problem, and we must never get into to a point where we simply accept it as a fact. That's again one of our fault lines because of hyper individualism, because we're doing things just for ourselves. We should never get into a position where we accept that what I've read out, what we're discussing, to be a fact, and we accept it as simply as is. We never accept this, and therefore, wherever we encounter such a situation, we must use the full weight of the law to ensure that such discrimination does not become commonplace. Okay? Ah, have I lost Thomas? Hello? Okay. Oh, I see number 9176 back again. Good morning. did you call again? Oh, yes. Yep. Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, I just got up.
Oh, I got you. Right, there you there. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Um, yeah, I might need some advice from our Galaxy administrators. My phone line is not creating a conference apparently. Anyway, never mind, never mind. Um, yes, sorry about that. So let's come back to yourself and just to focus on where we end up. So I'm hoping that following this discussion that you might get involved. Yeah, okay. So I don't know the number. I hope you will get involved because remember the motivated show is where people hear and then respond. It's not we don't simply listen passively, we respond by coming together. I wish you well. I will be in touch. Thank you so much. Stay strong, stay strong, stay strong. Bye. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Oh yeah. There you are. So the purpose of these shows, of course, I keep reiterating, is of course that we translate words into action. So no conversation ends with a passive yes. It is with an intention that we will actively translate our ambitions into actual work, actual actions, if you like, It will be materialized, if you like. You see the impact of our words. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I know that I can see that we're having some sound issue. At my end, it looks fine, but I understand the internet might be playing up. I'm just going to make another adjustment. Thank you, Zoltar. I will. You're okay. All is well now. Great. That's good. That's good. Um, I see I've got another call on the line. 9341. Caller with number ending 9341. And caller with number ending 9341. No, you can't hear us. Caller with number ending 9341. Okay, that call is still sitting there. That's fair enough. In that case, let me go on to the next story that I, in preparing for this show, looked up, which seemed to be, as it were, quite prominent in the news. In fact, this is one many of you may well have seen a video on, an altercation in a Peckham shop. Now, the Metropolitan Police have said, following initial inquiries, a 45-year-old man has been interviewed under caution. And I believe also, and it's interesting, I believe this might well be the person who I believe was being actually victimized. Um, a 31-year-old woman has also been arrested and been released on bail. Okay. Now, many of you may well have seen the social media videos of this particular instance. And a meeting is being organised. A meeting is being organised of the community, and I've also had the opportunity to meet with most businesses in the area in question in Peckham. Okay. We are and have developed new responses to situations of a similar kind in the future. Okay. But I welcome calls on this particular issue. And I wonder what I know calls of angry residents will come forward. I'm particularly interested in calls that seeks to build a new relationship with shop holders and customers. Okay, particularly interested in those who wish to think about the future, particularly in this case of Peckham, Rye Lane as a high street. You know, what is our vision for Peckham? Mhm. I'm particularly interested to speak to people who want to build. This is an unfortunate basis upon which to start to build, but it has proved to be a catalyst to bring people together to discuss the issues of treatment members of our community have received in the past in shops, maybe in Peckham, but in other parts of London and the country. Okay? Let's have a discussion about that and what we're going to do about it, more importantly. Remember, this is the Motivator Show, where we translate words into action. And remember, success is ours for the taking. So, yeah, I'm interested to hear from you. So, the number to call, if you wish to have a discussion on what happened in Peckham, it's 0203 289 6504. I repeat, 0203 289 6504. I'm very interested to hear what you've got to say about what happened in Peckham and how we as a community, together as a family, should respond to what happened in Peckham. And I might provide a little more details of my work in that area in order to ensure that such instances should be minimized, if not never happen again. Okay, I believe all businesses in that area have recognised the harm this particular incident has had on the economic well-being of Rye Lane and many parts of Peckham. Okay, it has harmed our main high street. So it's up to us, the solutions finder, to assert our solutions. Okay. All right, so those are the initial stories I've found, which you may wish to comment on. Okay, this wonderful 18-year-old who's the young STEM personality of the year. And those of you who don't know what STEM stands for, that stands for science, technology, engineering, and medicine. These are the subject areas we want to encourage our children to get involved in, because this will be the cornerstone of 21st, 22nd century life. This will drive our economic vitality in our communities, indeed in Britain and the world. It is IT or genetics, medicine that will drive the changes in society. Okay, and of course, the other story, job candidates. Do you really change yourself to avoid being discriminated against by those who will interview you? Women, are you putting on these hair pieces and wigs in order to avoid being discriminated against by the interviewer? And of course, the altercation in Peckham. What is our response to the community to what happened in Peckham? Okay. All right then. Now, there's another story which has been percolating for some time, but I've not been able to comment on, although I have commented on the earlier episodes. And that's of course the Nigerian presidential elections. Some of you would accept that the most recent Nigerian presidential election were a heated and controversial affair. It made, I would have to assert, the election process was desired, they will be met international norms. It is evident that in many areas the farm that lost took the result to the tribunal of the High Court of Nigeria. On the 6th of September, the tribunal ruled that the claim by the opposition parties, particularly the Nigerian Labour Party, led by Peter Obi, it was found that the tribunal threw out the challenge and therefore handed victory to Bola Tinubu. So I'm going to accept the outcome of the Nigerian presidential election. Okay, despite my misgivings, I'm going to accept it, and I want peace to come to Nigeria. I want peace to come to Nigeria. Nigeria deserves peace. And I hope that all the communities that make up that wonderful nation, Fulani, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, and others, of course, it is hoped that all those communities can find common aim, common purpose, can work together to build a great Nigeria during the term of Bola Tinubu's reign. I hope that is possible. I want peace to reign in Nigeria. Okay. I've said it. I see I've got a caller on the line. Caller, can I ask your name, please? Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that earlier on. Yes,
Yeah. I recognize you must be having some technicality.
I apologise. Hopefully, my friend from Galaxy will help me get over this problem. Anyway, but
I don't know how much of what I said previously was transmitted because the line just went silent.
It did. You got as far as describing why it's important that we, both our young people, our children, take up those STEM subjects. It was at that point we lost you, I think.
Right, and just on that point,
Mm-hmm.
that includes medicine because medicine isn't taught at primary.
History.
Mathematics.
Indeed, yes, indeed.
Yeah. And I was just trying basically to say that we need to be doing more collectively for our young people
Mm-hmm.
because our individualized families are not sufficiently socially and economically strong enough to provide everything privately. Now, those who can afford it will know that education is linked to economics.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the government provides assistance in terms of free school meals. Because the biggest impact on a child's educational outcome is economics. Because the simple fact that the resources needed, the time needed to socialize and educate a child
Mm-hmm.
is quite intense.
Yes.
And it can be very costly. Because in terms of the school, children need extracurricular activities. And too often our young people are left to their own devices.
Mm-hmm.
And a child on the street is a child heading towards prison.
Can I just ask you just to pause there, because I did want to unpack a little bit of what you said, okay? Because it's really important. Remember, because this particular show is connected with Galaxy at freeway.net, the de-brainwashing station, okay? So there's some unpacking I need to do first of all. And the first section of what you described, that is of course noting our economic position. You're correct that we've got a large pool of people on very modest income in our community, although we have our fair share of millionaires and billionaires in our community. Let me emphasize that. One of the advantages of living in Britain, I would assert, is that the British Labour Party back in the 50s found not only the National Health Service, but also brought in the system of state sponsors or finance education, so that the quality of education should not be determined by the size of your wallet. Mhm. The challenge we have at the moment is that we have a government, okay, who I assert do not share the Labour Party's values, equality of opportunity for all. So what you've experienced over this past decade or so is a gradual reduction in real terms in support for our state-funded schools. And that's... Yes, go ahead. Of course.
There was a consensus between both the major parties that education will not become a political football.
Indeed, in the 40s.
But in the 70s, amid a lot of economic crisis, Callaghan, who was a Labour leader, he stated that the education system was failing industry. And that led to a lot of political wrangling, that education became a political or a vote winner, depending on which side of the fence you were on.
So just to be clear, and you are correct. I recall the winter of discontent. You know, are old enough to remember that. You are correct. What he was citing, though, not the principle of state-funded education. What he was arguing is that the practitioners need to have a much closer relationship with industry and commerce to understand what are the skills needs, what are the jobs of the future. And by doing so, you better serve the needs of the British economy.
That was the theory that Callaghan was.
Absolutely. It's in fact the only theory upon which the state-funded education system was founded upon, because the other system, which required a person to pay at the point of use, clearly and absolutely did not work. Yeah, it meant that 80% or more of children did not receive an education. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Education is not just for work.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right.
This is what Frederick Douglass' theory was about in terms of black people should learn trade. Because he didn't think that it was politics or the issues affecting humanity should be much of a concern. Now, that may be one argument, but in reality, I have found that because I was denied education in my youth, it's only when I was in my 40s I passed my first exam, my first GCSEs, because I missed out in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Okay.
And since I've done that, I have had very little work to do with both of my degrees. But in terms of developing as a person, I've actually written 2 books.
I understand.
So there is more to education. So when it becomes a political football, it means the poor suffers, because all the rich does is take their children out of the system and put them in their private institutions.
So if I may at this point, again, I know. If I may just cutting at that point, just so that the audience can appreciate this dialogue. So whilst you're correct that if you're wealthy, you can afford to send your child to a private academic institution, I would assert that has always been the case. The problem is that if you want a strong, vibrant economy, you've got to educate the masses to a much higher level than was hitherto the case prior to the Second World War. Britain would not be Britain today. Yeah, exactly. Britain would not be Britain today.
When the Second World War broke out, and even the First World War, the working class in this country was so impoverished that they couldn't even fight properly.
Therefore,
In the
so
Second World War, Germany had advanced, even though they were under sanctions, had advanced technologically far ahead of Britain.
because they invested in education. Okay, so can I just take our conversation forward, though, Desmond? Let me take our conversation forward because we understood each other that the Labour government brought in state-funded education. Okay, and Labour prime ministers from time to time will ensure or make a point to ensure that that education system ensures the economic growth and vitality of the economy by providing people with the right skills that they are able to become economically viable and create wealth for themselves and indeed for their work and indeed for the economy as a whole. Okay, and it should not be the reserve of those who are rich or the landed gentry. Okay, so let's take us forward though. I think it's in terms of STEM subject, you're quite right. The M is for mathematics. It's our position as a community to ensure that our children understand how crucial these subjects are. But but I also, in response to your earlier point about the what is the purpose of education, I'm going to assert to you that the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools exhibit a level of high civilization, which means that the people, we, our African peoples, take responsibility to ensure that our children are taught our culture and traditions, our history and our motivations. Okay, it's our responsibility to do that. It's not for the broader state to do so. And if I may ask you, um, you have invested in young people. You've invested in your own personal education, and I know that you are investing in the development of the younger communities. Am I right?
Well, I try to do as little I can, but because I live in the Shire County,
Oh, I know you. You're doing a great deal. Don't be.
more individualist approach that's taking place in the home county. Unlike in the bigger cities
Mhm,
where you have the advantage of numbers,
mhm.
it is not similar because many of the people that are capable tend to commute and they tend to have limited time in terms of investing in the community. So when people have achieved on an individual level, they don't have the same commitment as other communities because they tend to cut themselves off from the community that they belong to.
Can I ask you to pause just there for a moment? Because that's another fault line in our community. I'm not going to talk about others, but most certainly our community. So, and it's us. No other people, it's us. It's a particular attitude some members of our community exhibit. Once they reach a particular social status or income level and are able to move out of the big cities, as it were, and commute in to work, okay, in some way it kind of disconnects them from the core community, as if they're living on islands by themselves. Okay, so you and I know that that is a somewhat myopic view of the world. Okay, and we need to develop the ability, just like other communities, to have wealthy people in the community who are as concerned about the less wealthy as they are about themselves.
But then for that to take place, the
Uh-huh.
community has to invest in the individual.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely,
symbiotic.
absolutely. Which is why, if I may again, just to be very clear, because you're right, what we've got to do. But remember, this is the motivated show where we're translating words into action. Okay, so in this case, I say to you, Desmond, that of course, tell us what you're doing to bridge the gap, because your examples, your may well become an exemplar for what should happen to bridge the gap between those who are well educated and those who are not, those who have resources and those who do not. But we remain a single family. What are you doing?
The sacrifice comes from I was seen as someone who the system wanted to use. Well, not use, but use. Because there was an effort to turn me into a kind of gatekeeper. But I rejected that, and by challenging local authority policies and practices, and I was involved in a Saturday school for about 10 years.
Oh, brilliant. Good.
It meant that I became unemployable because no one would offer me a job, and I had to refer them many times to employment tribunal. Where I was quite successful in many cases, not in terms of winning a case, but in terms of non-disclosure.
I understand.
Because there was no community support. I was a bit of a pioneer in a way. And I also became a sort of community youth volunteer, challenging things like unfair suspension and exclusion.
Brilliant, yes.
Took part in a community discussion.
Brilliant,
and
yes.
To this day, I'm still trying to help people with discriminatory practices. Because through my own challenges, I've learned quite a lot about employment tribunals, employment relations, and so I use those knowledge and skills to support individuals that may need the support. Who can't afford the expensive lawyers.
Yes.
And I would help them through the procedure. I'm also a school governor, where I try to deal with the policy area and to ensure that appropriate policies are in place. I mean, recently I had a bit of a challenge with a governing board because they didn't even want to include the word discriminatory behavior in their policy.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay.
The word prejudice. So I said, well, prejudice isn't against the law.
Well, certainly not.
It's prejudicial against people, but it's when you're discriminatory, because discrimination comes with additional prejudice plus power.
Indeed, it is.
So as governors, we're in a powerful position to be discriminatory.
You are indeed.
Of the policy we authorize and the policy we present.
Now, Desmond, I've got another caller on the line about to come through. Okay, so
I just wanted just to
yes.
That your line was okay.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
Way to correct this,
thank you. Mathematics, indeed, medicine. And keep up the good works, and long may you continue to network. Yeah, keep up the good works. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you. Same to you. So that's what I like to see. Inspired listeners. Let's see if I can get this other one up as well. And let's see, this one's still there. Good morning, caller, with number ending 8201. Caller with number ending 8201. No? Oh, I think they can't hear us. Caller with number ending 8201. There we go. All right. Caller with number ending, we can hear you, caller with number ending 8201. I'll do that. Don't worry. No, that takes care of that part. Don't you worry, people. Don't worry about it, people. So, coming back to where we are. So that was an interesting discussion with Desmond, caller, and he described his experience here in Britain. And he, like me, are shocked, horrified that those of you who are going for interviews these days are changing your image, changing your appearance, so that you can reduce the potential for discrimination by the interviewer. Okay, and potentially women are purchasing hair pieces and wigs in order to avoid discrimination, to hide their African hair. Wow, that's 21st century Britain. I'm interested to hear from women on this particular point. Is that true? Is that observation correct? Okay. Anyway, let's just go to the other story I've noted. And let's see the other story I've noted here, of course. Oh yes, there we go. And this is one that I found quite interesting. According to the Vice President of Sierra Leone, Dr. Buwamia, electric vehicles will drastically reduce the cost of transportation as a major component of the cost of fuel and spare parts will also reduce carbon emissions. Okay. Now, it's interesting. This is a story from Sierra Leone I picked out, and the advent of electric vehicles, particularly buses, I understand, in this case, will reduce the cost of transportation and, of course, reduce the Sierra Leone's carbon footprint. In fact, for most of West Africa, apparently. I found that to be an interesting story, one that, as a community, we do not discuss enough. Our role and contributing to reducing the human effect on climate change. Oh, I've got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Can I have your name, please?
I think you heard my name when I talk.
Oh, well, I recognise you now.
So, there's a couple of quick points I'll make quickly. So,
Thank you.
in terms of
Forgive me, Brother Kwame. Welcome. Yep, go ahead. Yep.
thank you. So, two key points. So, in terms of reparations,
Yes.
the President of Ghana made a call for reparations at the just ended UN General Assembly.
He did.
And the fact of the matter is, they said, your taxes, you as an individual, my taxes, our taxes as a community were used up until 2015 to pay for the defense of those civilians who made money in branding and advocacy. So this in itself is why reparations is important for us as a community. Yeah, and those naysayers who think that we are fermenting trouble, what have you, your taxes for you to pay those people who enslaved other people.
Can you imagine? Huh? So insulting. When I found out, I cannot tell you how mad I was at the time. I normally maintain a reasonably calm disposition, but I can tell you, my blood boiled when I found out that my taxes were paying these enslaved families up until only a few years ago. I cannot tell you. I was so mad. And on the screen, you may not be viewing us via YouTube.
Yeah.
I put it on the screen that a previous show, an interview I've got to play in full soon by Judge Julian Robinson, and the research that his team commissioned. Okay, that the valuation is that Britain should be paying both Caribbean and African countries in at least $24 trillion in compensation for the illegal transatlantic chattel enslavement activities that they were involved in for those hundreds of years. Indeed. Brother Beckford, if you may not watch that particular show, it was the beginning. He started the process. His initial program in 2004 is the founding point for Judge Julian Robinson. You're quite correct. Quite correct.
So my last point quickly is that you talked about this about Sierra Leone in terms of electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa, we need electric cars. We should be using solar power cars.
Ah.
That's even more environmentally friendly, and that's even better for our roads than electric goods, electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, that's concept that we should do power generation.
Yes.
You know, and I don't see the logic in us as African people on the continent driving electric cars when we've got the Creator given song or day,
Mhm.
whereby it should be, as part of our investment drive,
Yes.
using government resources to fund solar power cars and actually have our own automobile industry. So I don't
Yes.
understand why African leaders have this thing about electric cars wanting to mimic Europe when it's for their condition, whereby when we need to do for our condition, and solar by far is the best way forward in terms of, creating employment, generating wealth, and also being environmentally friendly as well.
If I may say so, Father Kwame, I know you are a multi-talented African. That sounds to me developing solar panel industry in either Ghana, West Africa, or across the continent. That would be an opportunity, is it not?
We're doing that. I live in Ghana.
Yes.
I built my own house more than 15 years ago.
Well done.
Without Ghana water.
Yeah.
We also use solar energy panels.
Good.
Whereby, I don't depend on Ghana, the electrical company. So, this is something that we've been doing. And I also tried to in Ghana, I bought a Katanka solar power car.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been using solar panels for a long time anyway. So, the solar technology is not new. It's something that we've been developing a harness as well. We want to take it on to another level, whereby we can mass produce it, on a mass level.
Well said. Thank you. That's another live example. He's translated words into action. He understands better than me in some ways. Success is ours for the taking. Well, Kwame, thank you for the call. As you know, I've only got maybe a minute or two left. So, pleasure for the call. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you all for your listening ears. Okay. And I hope that you are motivated by what you've heard this morning. Information shared, okay, is intended not just for you. You must tell your loved ones, your family members, your friends network, your associates, your wider community, what you've learned this morning. Because remember, success is ours for the taking. We must counter the disease of hyper-individualism. Yeah? We must dispel any notion that our children are bad, when clearly 98% of them are just good, upstanding human beings who want the best for themselves, their family, their loved ones. Yeah, we dispel that propaganda. Okay, and what is clear from this show that the lifestyle messages are indeed resonating with you, your families, your network, your associates, and the wider community. Yeah, we recognize diabetes and hypertension, high blood pressure is ravaging our community. We recognize we should exercise, keep our bodies fit. We recognize being overweight is harmful in the long term to our bodies, and therefore we will eat moderately, no more than a fistful or so per sitting. We recognize that working together, giving each other both physical, moral, and psychological support is the only way forward. If you want to go fast, the proverb says, you go alone. If you want to go far, we go together. This is the Golden Show. This is where we translate our words into action, and where success is ours for the taking. To the next one, I remain the Golden Pray me. Justice for you, and let's take it, shall we?